The warehouse always smelled of oil, pine sawdust, and something older, something soaked into the bones of the building. Michael stood in the center of the floor, 32, suited but not polished, sleeves rolled, jaw locked. This was his father's empire. Now his all. Or, it was supposed to be. He glanced at the office window above, blinds half closed. Jacob stood behind them. His younger brother by 3 years, clean-shaven, smiling, already watching. Michael said. He didn't even wait until the body was cold. The floor manager approached with hesitation. Sir, there's a new shipment on Dock 3. Michael nodded without looking. I'll handle it. But as he moved, the whispers followed. Jacob's name. Jacob's deal. Jacob's charm. None of them had seen who held this place together when the old man fell sick. Michael had. Michael built. Jacob smiled. Their mother's funeral had been quiet. Their father's, louder, angrier. And now this. This betrayal wrapped in business. Michael didn't rage. Not yet. But beneath the calm, something cracked. Michael stepped into the office and shut the door behind him with a solid click. The space hadn't changed since his father last sat here. Wooden desk worn smooth by years of grit, the same crooked family photo nailed to the corkboard. He stared at it. 2 boys and a man, all squinting against the sun, their mother behind the camera. Michael muttered. He said I'd run this place. Jacob was already seated at the desk, tie loosened, feet propped carelessly on the wood. And yet, Jacob said, here I am. Michael's voice was low. You think this is a win? Jacob shrugged. Dad wanted results. I got 'em, ma'am. I earned this. You worked here. I made it matter. Michael stepped closer, fury held beneath iron control. This office was supposed to be his. The view, the legacy, the command. Not this smirking betrayal behind his father's desk. Michael said, you'll regret cutting me out. Jacob smiled wider. Not if you don't get in the way. Outside, Michael stood under the awning behind the warehouse, rain beginning to spit from the sky. He lit a cigarette with trembling fingers. The flame flickered before catching. His phone buzzed in his jacket. A text from Sophia. You okay? He didn't answer. Not yet. Sophia had warned him about Jacob's charm, about what charm could hide. She'd work here too. Before things got complicated. Before Jacob started showing up at her door, uninvited. Michael had brushed it off then. Now? He replayed every warning he'd dismissed. The flame. The smoke. The silence. That was his thinking space. As rain grew heavier, he stayed still, cigarette ash curling downward. He wasn't going to walk away. He wasn't going to yell either. That's what Jacob wanted. No. Michael would do what he always did, build slow, strike smart. And when it came, Jacob wouldn't see it coming. Later that night, Michael returned to the workshop floor long after closing. The lights buzzed overhead, humming in the emptiness. He walked past stacked inventory, the machines asleep. This had been his sanctuary once. Late nights with his father adjusting designs, fine-tuning orders, fixing what others broke. Now it felt haunted. His fingers brushed the edge of an old saw table. Dust clung to his palm. In the back corner, the breaker box still bore the tape where he marked the circuits. Proof he built more than Jacob ever knew. He sat on an overturned crate and stared into the darkness. This place had a pulse, and he knew how to read it. Maybe Jacob owned the name on paper, but Michael knew the people, the tools, the history. He whispered, they think it's his now. He looked around. Let them. I'll take it back one piece at a time. The next morning came early and cold. Michael stood outside the loading dock, sipping black coffee from a dented thermos. Workers began to arrive, nodding cautiously. Some avoided his gaze. Others paused, unsure which brother now held the reins. Eddie, the oldest foreman, approached slowly. You still showing up, huh? Michael said, I never left. Eddie scratched his beard. People talk. Say Jacob's changing things. Michael sipped again. Yeah, I heard. Eddie nodded once. You built this crew. They remember. Don't rush. Michael's eyes narrowed. I'm not rushing. I'm watching. A delivery truck pulled in. Forklifts roared to life. The day began. But Michael didn't move yet. He stood like a soldier before a siege. Calm. Cold. Calculated. The battle wasn't on paper. It was in moments like this, in trust, in presence. And he was damn sure not handing that over. Michael sat across from Sophia at a quiet diner on the edge of the industrial park. Rain smeared the windows, softening the neon glow outside. She stirred her coffee, watching him. You should have walked away when your father passed, Sophia said. Michael replied, He built it for me. She looked down. He told Jacob the same thing. The silence between them stretched. He said, You think I'm wrong to stay? She said, I think Jacob's not playing fair. Michael leaned forward. I know. That's why I have to win slow. She nodded once, finally meeting his eyes. Then you better start now. He pulled a folded paper from his coat. Old schematics, one of the custom models their father designed, but never released. These were buried, he said. I'm bringing them back. She smiled faintly. Just be sure you're not digging your own grave. Outside, the rain thickened. Inside, a quiet plan took root. One that didn't involve Jacob. Not yet. Back at the warehouse, Jacob stood in the center of the conference room, laughing with two new investors. Sleek, suited, sharp. Michael watched through the glass, face unreadable. Eddie joined him. You seen the new client list? He asked. Michael nodded. All flash, no foundation. Eddie muttered. He's moving fast. Michael said, then he'll break something. Across the room, Jacob's eyes met Michael's through the glass. He raised his glass in mock salute. Michael didn't flinch. Eddie asked, What are you going to do? Michael replied, Make sure when he falls, I'm the one standing. Jacob turned back to his guests, full of charm and noise. But Michael saw what they didn't. The cracks under the shine, the gaps in the foundation. This wasn't personal anymore. It was survival. One move at a time. Michael worked late into the night in the tool room, fingers stained with grease, sleeves rolled back. He flipped through dusty blueprints, marking notes with red pencil. This wasn't about innovation. It was about memory. About reclaiming what mattered. The model his father never released, the one that could have saved the company 5 years earlier, was still viable. Still his. He whispered, You built this for something real, not for show. The door creaked open. Sophia leaned in. You always did your best work when the lights were off. Michael smirked. I don't need spotlights, just silence. She stepped closer, looked at the diagram. That's the Phoenix frame. He nodded. Jacob didn't even know it existed. She touched the edge of the blueprint. Then it's yours. Make it count. The machines in the room hummed softly, like old ghosts awakening. This wasn't about taking the business back. It was about reviving its soul. Morning came with hard sun and harder news. Jacob called a company-wide meeting on the floor, voice booming through the speaker system. We're expanding west. New contracts. New hires. New name. Michael stood in the back, arms crossed. Jacob announced, effective immediately, will be known as J&T Manufacturing. The crowd applauded. Some confused. Some thrilled. Eddie looked at Michael. T, that's your name. Michael nodded slowly. He's erasing the family brand, but using the initials to make it sound like it's still ours. Sophia whispered, He's baiting you. Michael replied, No, he's marking the moment he started the fall. The applause ended. Jacob smiled. But Michael saw it, the flicker of desperation behind the charm. He wasn't building. He was bluffing. and soon the cost of that bluff would show. That night, Michael found the ledgers, real ones, hidden deep in the old safe his father used to trust. Dust-covered, handwritten. They told a different story. Orders Jacob claimed to have made were duplicates. Numbers inflated. Names that didn't check out. Michael sat in the office, eyes scanning line after line, heart thudding. Sophia entered quietly. Is it real? Michael handed her the page. It's a shell game. He's been cooking it since Dad went into hospice. Her jaw tightened. We can take this to the board. Michael stood, fire in his eyes. No, not yet. Let him finish building the tower. I'll be the one to pull the first brick. Outside, the lights of the warehouse glowed dim and unaware. But inside, the truth had ignited. The battle was no longer for the business. It was for the truth. And Michael had it in his hands. Michael stood in front of the boardroom table, the ledgers stacked in front of him. The board members, gray-haired, stiff-suited, skeptical, watched in silence. At the head sat Mr. Carmichael, the last to speak at their father's funeral. You're accusing Jacob of fraud? He asked. Michael nodded. Of building revenue off ghost orders. Of erasing credit lines. A thin man beside him snorted. That's a bold claim. Michael opened the ledger, flipped pages. These vendors don't exist. The invoices are recycled. A beat of silence. One board member shifted. Carmichael asked, What do you want? Michael said, An audit, independent, and a freeze on new accounts until it's done. Before anyone could reply, the door opened. Jacob walked in, smiling. You're having a party without me? He looked at the ledgers. Digging through Dad's ghosts again? Michael met his gaze. No, just finally putting them to rest. Jacob's smile stayed, but his jaw twitched. He knew. The room had shifted. The audit began the next morning. Accountants combed through documents, servers were mirrored, emails flagged. Michael stayed close, watching like a hawk. Jacob paraded around unfazed, shaking hands, cracking jokes, putting on the show. But behind the charm, his movements were tighter. He spent more time in his office. Closed-door meetings stretched longer. At lunch, Sophia passed Michael in the hallway. You're getting to him, she said. Michael replied, Not enough yet. That night, the lead auditor pulled him aside. There are too many inconsistencies to ignore. We'll need another week. Michael nodded. Take two. The truth wasn't just in the numbers. It was in the silence. And Jacob's silence was growing. He was rattling inside. Cracks were forming. All Michael had to do now was wait. Not react. Let the weight of truth press down until Jacob buckled under it. 3 days into the audit, Jacob made his move. He called a press conference in front of the company logo, flanked by 2 lawyers. This company has always been about trust, he said, voice smooth. Recent accusations are internal misunderstandings. Michael watched from the back, jaw tight. Sophia leaned toward him. He's controlling the narrative. Michael replied, For now. Jacob continued, We are restructuring leadership to reflect a modern direction. Reporters asked about the audit. He smiled. Standard? Nothing to worry about. He ended with a handshake and a flashbulb smile. Michael turned to Sophia. That was his first mistake. She asked, Why? Because now everyone's watching. He stepped out before the cameras. Said nothing. Just stood still. And every lens turned. His silence said more than Jacob's entire speech. The real message had begun. Michael returned to the shop floor that evening. The real heart of the business wasn't in the offices, it was here. Machines humming. Workers moving. Eddie met him at the rear stairwell. People are talking. Quiet, but they're watching. Michael nodded. Let them. He walked to an old lathe machine, touched the panel. This was the first one Dad bought. Eddie said, I remember when you fixed it your first week here. Michael smiled faintly. I remember it sparking in my face. A moment of quiet passed. Then Eddie said, "Whatever happens, you've got people here." Michael looked around. Familiar eyes, tired hands, loyal faces. "Then we've already won half the war," he said. "No cameras here. No lawyers. Just truth in motion." He turned back to the machine, started it up. Sparks flew. But this time, they were under control. That night, Michael opened the final folder from the old safe. It wasn't numbers. It was letters, handwritten by their father. Some addressed to Michael, others to Jacob. He read one slowly. "To Michael the builder. You understand things others don't. You fix what's broken without noise. Never forget, legacy isn't in who inherits. It's in who maintains." Another read to Jacob, the seller. "You bring light to dark rooms, but sometimes you forget what the light is for. Remember, a showmanship without foundation crumbles." Michael folded the letters. No anger, no gloating. Just wait. He didn't need to use them. He just needed to remember. This business wasn't a prize. It was a responsibility. And only one of them ever treated it that way. He turned off the desk lamp and looked out the window. The warehouse glowed in the dark. Still breathing. Michael entered the boardroom again, this time with a printed report in hand. The audit was complete. Every inconsistency catalogued. Every misstep highlighted. The board sat tense, waiting. Carmichael adjusted his glasses. "This is substantial," he said. Michael nodded. "Enough to remove him?" Another member asked. "Legally? Maybe. But he'll fight it." Michael said, "I expect him to." Just then, Jacob walked in, expression unreadable. He tossed a binder onto the table. "Before you decide, read that." Inside was a restructuring proposal. A compromise. He'd step back as CEO, stay as advisor. Michael didn't flinch. Jacob said, "This company doesn't need a war. It needs both of us." The room fell silent. Then Carmichael asked, "Michael?" Michael said, "He's offering truce because he knows he's lost. But I'm not here to humiliate him. I'm here to rebuild." Jacob looked away. For the first time, not with arrogance, but with something close to respect. The tide had turned. Later in the warehouse, Jacob leaned against the stairwell rail as Michael walked past. "You really want this place?" Jacob asked. Michael paused. "I already have it. Just cleaning up the paperwork." Jacob scoffed. "Dad always thought you'd be too quiet to lead." Michael said, "Turns out quiet was what this place needed." Jacob stepped forward. "So what now? I walk away?" Michael studied him. "You stay, but not as king, as a partner, if you can handle that." Jacob looked down, then up. "You sure?" "No," Michael admitted. "But I'm done building alone." The air hung heavy between them. They weren't brothers again, not yet. But they weren't enemies anymore. And maybe that was enough for now. Jacob said, "Well, let's see if we can make it work." Michael walked on. No smile. No victory lap. Just one more step in the right direction. That evening, Michael stood outside, watching as the last truck pulled out. The sky burned with sunset, casting fire across the pavement. Sophia walked up beside him. "So it's done?" she asked. Michael nodded. "Yeah, for now." She looked at him carefully. "You didn't burn him. Didn't need to," he said. "Sometimes the threat of fire is enough." She smiled. "You've changed." He looked at the warehouse, the hum of machines still echoing inside. "No," he said. "I just remembered who I was before all this." Sophia touched his arm. "You're not just your father's son anymore." "No," he said. "I'm something else now." The sky dimmed. The lot emptied. And for the first time in a long while, Michael let himself breathe. Inside the main office, Michael cleaned out the old cabinet. His father's things, rusted tape measures, an old invoice stamp, a pocket knife, were still there. Sophia stood nearby, helping silently. She held up a faded note. Trust is earned, not inherited. Michael took it, stared for a moment, then folded it carefully. He left us more than a mess, he said. He left a warning. Sophia nodded. And you listened. He smiled. Eventually. They worked in silence, packing memories into boxes. No shouting. No final standoff. Just the quiet work of legacy. When the last drawer closed, Michael said, "It's not about what we take from this place." She looked at him. "It's about what we give it back." He placed the note in the top drawer. Then shut it. That night, Michael stood on the warehouse roof. The city lights flickered in the distance. Below, machines whirred, men shouted, life carried on. Jacob joined him quietly, 2 coffees in hand. "Didn't peg you as the rooftop type," Jacob said. Michael smirked. "Didn't peg you as the sharing type." They stood in silence. Jacob offered the second cup. Michael took it. "You really think this truce lasts?" Jacob asked. "If it doesn't," Michael said, "I'll know how to fight next time." Jacob laughed softly. "Fair." They sipped in silence. Above them, stars flickered behind smog and city glow. Below, the business pulsed, flawed, alive, and still theirs. "We don't have to be friends," Michael said. "But we don't have to be enemies." Jacob nodded. "Brothers will do." And for the first time, they meant it. Weeks passed, and something new settled over the warehouse. Balance. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't peaceful. But it worked. Michael reviewed the new production plans in the office he now shared with Jacob. They spoke little, but the tension had thinned. "You still hate me," Jacob said one morning casually. Michael didn't look up. "Not hate, just don't trust you." Jacob nodded. "That's fair." They worked in silence. Outside the window, forklifts moved, orders stacked. The business was running again, not on smoke and mirrors, but on process. Sophia entered, a new contract in hand. "Phoenix Frames already pulling interest," she said. Michael took the folder, flipped it open. Jacob said, "That's yours. You saw it through." Michael glanced at him. "Then don't ruin it." Jacob smirked. "Wouldn't dream of it." For the first time, Michael didn't feel like he was playing defense. He was building again. Not just machines, but ground he could stand on. Michael stood in front of the crew, 40 workers in canvas and denim, hands rough, faces steady. "We lost a lot of time," he said. "But we didn't lose the work." Eddie nodded from the front row. Michael continued, "This floor's been my home longer than any office, and from today forward, it's your shop too." A few glances. A few quiet nods. "Bonuses are back," he added. "And we're reinstating skill training." One man whispered, "Didn't think we'd see that again." Michael smiled. "Believe it." Jacob stood off to the side, arms folded, watching. No interruption. No spotlight. Just presence. Afterward, Michael walked past him. Jacob said, "You sound like Dad." Michael replied, "Maybe. But I'm not building his version. I'm building mine." Jacob didn't argue. He just looked at the crew and nodded. This wasn't about replacing legacy anymore. It was about shaping it. The Phoenix frame prototype was ready. Michael ran his hand along the polished steel, eyes fixed on every curve, every line. He remembered nights spent redrawing its flaws, mornings spent reworking the weight ratios. This wasn't just product, it was proof. Sophia said, "The press wants to see it." He nodded. "Let them, but not until we run it first." She smiled. Still the cautious one. "No," he said. Still the builder. The machine hissed to life. Clean lines. Smooth turns. Not a glitch. Jacob watched from the back wall, silent. When the demo ended, applause broke out among the crew. Not loud, but honest. Michael did smile. He just nodded once. Later, Jacob walked past and said, "It's yours all right." Michael replied, "It was never yours to lose, just mine to protect." And in that moment, the business felt whole, not perfect, not finished, but finally real. Later that week, Michael sat with his father's final will. He hadn't opened it since the funeral. Inside was the expected, the shares, the assets, the personal effect. But tucked behind the last page was a handwritten note. "Michael, if you're reading this, you didn't take over. You earned it, not because you're perfect, but because you stayed, you fought for what mattered." Michael closed his eyes. The grief was duller now, but still there. Sophia entered quietly, saw the paper. "You okay?" He nodded. "Yeah, I just needed to hear it from him." She sat beside him. He knew. He just didn't know how to say it. "Neither did I," he whispered. They sat like that, a while. No rush. No strategy. Just peace. Michael had spent years chasing validation. But now, sitting in the quiet, he realized he didn't need to chase anything anymore. He'd built enough. On Friday evening, the team hosted a small celebration. No speeches, no spotlights, just music, food, and the sound of people who believed again. Michael stood off to the side with a beer in hand, watching the crew laugh around a fire barrel out back. Jacob approached. "You did it," he said. Michael looked at him. "We did it eventually." Jacob nodded. "I'm stepping back, advisory only." Michael raised a brow. "Voluntarily. Don't get used to it," Jacob smirked. "But, yeah." A moment passed. Then Jacob said, "You've made this place better than either of us thought possible." Michael replied, "That's because I stopped trying to be dad." He took a sip. "I started being me." The fire crackled. The crew toasted. And for the first time, Michael let himself enjoy it. Not just the moment, but the work it took to get there. The morning after the celebration, Michael walked the warehouse floor alone. The laughter had faded. The fire was out. But the echoes lingered. He passed machines now running with precision, racks now properly labeled, workers now meeting without needing orders. For the first time, he didn't feel like he was managing chaos. He was leading something alive. At the back, he found a note pinned to the bulletin board. No signature. Just 6 words. "This is yours. Don't forget it." He folded it quietly, tucked it into his jacket. As he turned, Eddie appeared. "You going soft on us now?" Michael smirked. "No, just watching it work." Eddie nodded. "You turned it around. Place breathes different." Michael glanced around. "That's not me. That's them." He paused. "I just gave them room to do what they already knew." It was never about control. It was about trust. And finally, he had earned it. By midweek, a call came in from an old competitor, a bid for partnership on a nationwide contract. Sophia reviewed the offer beside Michael. "They want to share logistics," she said. "Split the build, split the profit." Michael raised an eyebrow. "Why us?" "Because you didn't collapse when they expected you to." He read the proposal. It was solid, smart, lucrative. But it meant expansion, and with expansion came risk. He set the paper down. "I'll only sign it if we scale on our terms." Sophia nodded. "Then we bring them to us, not the other way around." Later that day, Jacob peeked into the office. "You're finally playing big," he said. Michael replied, "Not playing, building." Jacob grinned. "Same thing. Just depends who's keeping score." Michael didn't grin back. "I don't keep score anymore. I just build things that last." And he meant it. Michael sat at the old drafting table in the back room. The same one he used as a teenager. Scratched. Stained. Familiar. Dark. He laid out the blueprint for their next build. Not just a product, but a new facility wing. More space. Better flow. Room to grow. Sophia stood behind him. Feels different, doesn't it? He looked up. It feels real. She smiled. That's what building does. It makes things real. He nodded. I used to think legacy was something you inherited, but I get it now. It's what you create when no one's watching. She leaned on the table. Then we better build something that outlasts both of us. He handed her a pencil. Help me draw it. And together, they began sketching not just a plan, but a future. Quiet, still, measured, unshakable. Construction began a week later. Workers carved out the frame for the new expansion, metal beams rising like bones. Michael stood in a hard hat, clipboard in hand, giving direction. Jacob arrived in jeans and boots, no suit in sight. Didn't expect to see you out here, Michael said. Jacob shrugged. Thought I'd watch something rise instead of fall. Michael smirked. Try lifting something while you're at it. They walked the frame, past cement mixes and welding sparks. For once there was no edge between them, just dust and promise. This feels different, Jacob said. Because it is, Michael replied. Because we're not fighting for the same piece anymore. We're building the next one. Jacob nodded. You've changed. No, Michael said. I just finally got to do it my way. The wind picked up, and with it, the sound of progress. Late that night, Michael stood outside the expansion site alone. Floodlights hummed. Steel shadows stretched like fingers. He looked over the beams, imagining walls, motion, life, a future. Sophia approached, arms crossed against the breeze. You ever rest? She asked. Michael smiled. Sometimes, after everything's still. She stood beside him. You know this place will never be still, right? Good, he said. That means it's alive. They watched in silence. She asked, do you ever miss what it used to be? He thought a moment. Sometimes, but mostly I'm grateful it changed. She leaned into his shoulder. You changed it. He exhaled. It changed me first. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of sawdust and new cement. Michael didn't just feel peace. He felt ready. The ribbon cutting felt surreal. Not because of the ceremony, but because of who stood beside Michael. Workers. Partners. Even Jacob. The new expansion gleamed under the midday sun. Reporters clicked cameras. Michael stepped up to the mic. This isn't about starting over, he said. It's about building forward. Crowd clapped. Not loud, but proud. Jacob handed him the scissors. Want to do the honors? Michael smiled. We do it together. They cut the ribbon in sync. Flashbulbs popped. But Michael didn't flinch. He wasn't here for headlines. He was here for what came after. Sophia joined him afterward. You looked like a real CEO up there. He replied, That's funny. I finally stopped trying to look like one. The expansion wasn't just square footage. It was proof. That legacy could be rewritten. That silence could become structure. That what once broke could be rebuilt, stronger than before. Days after the launch, Michael visited his father's grave for the first time in months. The cemetery was quiet, wind brushing through the rows like whispers. He crouched by the headstone, resting one hand on the cold stone. I fought hard, he said softly. Harder than I thought I would. He pulled a folded photo from his jacket, one of the expansion framed by morning sun. It's done now. But not finished. Nothing worth keeping ever is. He placed the photo beside the grave. You were wrong about how this needed to go, but you were right about what mattered. He stood, breathing in the stillness. It's mine now, not because you gave it to me, but because I earned it. There was no response. Just wind. Just leaves. But Michael didn't need one. He turned, walked back toward the gates. The past had heard him. And let him go. Back at the warehouse, things didn't slow, they evolved. A new intern program launched. Orders doubled. The crew moved with quiet rhythm, and Michael no longer needed to hover. In the break room, Eddie clinked a mug against Michael's. You built a machine that doesn't need you to babysit. Michael smiled. Finally. Sophia appeared, holding a folder. 3 more bids, East Coast this time. Michael leaned back. We're not chasing scale, we're choosing direction. Jacob passed by, nodding as he went. No tension. Just motion. Eddie smirked. Feels like you built a future, not just a shop. Michael raised his mug. Then, let's keep building it, carefully. And as the hum of tools resumed in the distance, Michael felt something new. Not pressure. Not fear. Just purpose. That evening, Michael stood in the new facility wing. Quiet now. Empty. Sibling. Machines powered down. But the silence felt different, earned. He walked the floor slowly, fingers brushing new railings, feet echoing against smooth concrete. Sophia entered behind him. They're asking if you'll speak at the expo, she said. Big panel? New leadership? Michael exhaled. I'm not the speech type. She grinned. That's what makes them want you. He looked around. Maybe it's time. She stepped beside him. You've become what your father never could be, not just a builder. A listener. Michael nodded. If I speak, it won't be to show off. She smiled. Good. Tell them how you survive. The lights flicked off one by one. They didn't rush out. They stood in the dark a while, listening to everything that no longer needed to be said. Weeks later, Michael stood on stage at the industry expo dowing. No tie. No script. Just clarity. The crowd of business leaders leaned in. I didn't inherit a company, he said. I inherited a mess, and I almost walked away. But I stayed, because some things matter more than titles. He paused. We don't build legacies. We build days, hours, work worth doing. The applause was quiet at first. Then, thunderous. Later, Sophia found him backstage. You said the thing no one ever says. Michael shrugged. I said what I knew. Jacob called that night. Dad would have hated that speech, he joked. Michael replied, That's how I know it was honest. He hung up, smiled. Outside the hotel, rain had begun to fall. He stepped into it without rushing. No umbrella. No fear. The storm didn't matter anymore. He'd already weathered the worst of it, and built something on the other side.